Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
Michael Corinthos has always been painted as the dutiful son, the protective husband, and the loyal father who tried to live a life more morally upright than those before him. But in Port Charles, secrets never stay hidden for long, and when they finally come crashing down, they often take entire families with them. In the latest shocking turn, Michael finds himself backed into a corner as his carefully buried misdeeds are exposed to the public, rocking not only his reputation but also his marriage, his fatherhood, and every aspect of his life that he once thought was stable. The fallout is devastating, and what begins as whispers around town soon escalates into a full-blown scandal, leaving Michael facing the unimaginable, an arrest that could change his family's future forever. The unraveling begins with a series of subtle discoveries. Small clues start surfacing about Michael's involvement in underhanded activities, things he thought would never be traced back to him. For months, he had justified his actions, believing he was acting in the name of protection, protecting Willow, protecting Wiley, even protecting the extended Corinthos clan. But the thin line between moral duty and criminal behavior blurred until Michael found himself deep in choices that now look like cold, calculated crimes in the eyes of the law. His enemies, always waiting for a crack in the Corinthos armor, seized this opportunity. One anonymous tip here, one leaked document there, and soon the puzzle pieces fit together in a way that no one can ignore. The Port Charles police, never strangers to dealing with high-profile scandals, eventually put Michael under a microscope. Detective after detective begins digging, and the evidence becomes too compelling to sweep under the rug. Friends turn into reluctant witnesses, and rivals take joy in watching the golden boy of the Corinthos family squirm under scrutiny. The revelation of Michael's crimes is not just about legal violations, it's about betrayal. People who trusted him feel deceived, especially Willow, who begins questioning just how much of her husband's life has been a carefully constructed lie. Willow, already burdened with the pressures of motherhood and her own health struggles, is blindsided by the revelations. She had stood by Michael through thick and thin, trusting his judgment and supporting his decisions even when she did not fully understand them. To find out that Michael deliberately engaged in criminal acts that could have endangered their family, is a crushing blow. Yet Willow's greatest instinct has always been to protect her children, Wiley and Amelia. The moment Michael is arrested, Willow knows that the burden of custody, stability, and guidance falls squarely on her shoulders. For all the heartbreak she feels toward Michael, she has no time to wallow in despair. She immediately steps into the role of protector, determined to shield her children from the storm raging around them. The custody question becomes a central theme in the aftermath of Michael's arrest. For Wiley, this is not the first time he has been at the center of a custody war, but this time feels different. Michael had always been the parent advocating for Wiley's safety, often fighting Nina and even his own family members when he believed Wiley's well-being was at stake. Now, with Michael behind bars, the tables turn. Willow, while heartbroken, emerges as the stronger parent in the eyes of the court, the one with both the emotional stability and legal footing to raise Wiley and Amelia without the looming shadow of criminal accusations. Lawyers begin circling, social workers are brought in, and suddenly every decision Willow makes for her children is under a magnifying glass. Amelia, though still an infant, becomes part of the equation as well. Willow cannot fathom her daughter growing up without a sense of security, and she vows to give her the kind of safe, nurturing environment that Amelia deserves, no matter how messy things get with Michael. This resolve sparks a fire in Willow, transforming her from a woman often caught in the middle of Corinthos family drama into a mother whose strength surprises even her closest allies. In courtrooms, in private discussions, and in quiet moments at home, Willow asserts herself as the one true guardian of her children's futures. Meanwhile, Michael's arrest sends shockwaves across Port Charles. The Corinthos family scrambles to contain the damage, but the truth is out in the open. Sonny, torn between anger and sorrow, finds himself questioning where he went wrong as a father. Did Michael inherit his ruthless streak from him? Did the years of exposure to mob life taint his son beyond repair? Carly, equally distraught, feels the sting of watching yet another family member be dragged through the mud. She wants desperately to help her son, but even she cannot erase the evidence stacked against him. Their once tight-knit family dynamic begins to fracture under the weight of public shame. Nina, never one to miss an opportunity, views Michael's downfall as poetic justice. For so long she had been painted as the untrustworthy one, the woman unworthy of being in Wiley's life. Now the man who tried to erase her from her grandson's world is the one facing jail time. She pushes for more access to Wiley, claiming that with Michael out of the picture, she should have a stronger role in the boy's life. But Willow, unwilling to let Nina exploit the situation, resists at every turn, arguing that her children need consistency, not more chaos. The courtroom battles grow fiercer, and Wiley, caught in the middle, feels the weight of adults warring over him yet again. For Michael, sitting in a jail cell is a stark contrast to the life he once led. He replays every decision in his head, wondering where he crossed the line from protective father to criminal. He fears losing not just his freedom, but the love and trust of Willow and the chance to watch his children grow up. The days drag on, each one chipping away at the confident man he used to be. His legal team scrambles to find loopholes, technicalities, anything that could reduce his sentence or prove his innocence, but the evidence feels insurmountable. The walls close in, and Michael faces the harsh reality that this time, his family name cannot save him. The tension spills beyond the Corinthos household and reverberates throughout Port Charles. Friends, allies, and enemies alike take sides. Some argue that Michael deserves another chance, that he is a victim of circumstance who let desperation cloud his judgment. Others insist that he should face the full weight of the law, that his privileged status has shielded him long enough. The community divides, and the once untouchable Corinthos reputation is dragged through the mud. Every whispered conversation in the Metro Court, every gossip-fueled exchange at General Hospital, circles back to the same question: how could Michael let it come to this? As Michael's arrest dominates headlines, the people of Port Charles can't stop speculating about what happens next. Court proceedings move quickly when high-profile names are involved, and Michael becomes the centerpiece of a scandal that journalists thrive on. Every detail of his actions, every accusation leveled against him, is dissected in the press. The whispers that once circulated around town turn into blaring tabloid headlines, and Willow finds herself shielding Wiley and Amelia from the constant noise. She refuses to let the children be defined by their father's mistakes, but even within the walls of their home, Willow cannot escape the sense of being watched and judged. Friends try to support her, but she feels the loneliness that comes with being the parent left behind, forced to hold everything together while her husband's world crumbles. The custody hearings become particularly brutal. Willow, standing as the pillar of strength, is forced to recount the ways Michael's actions have destabilized their family. Lawyers representing Michael's side argue that he acted with noble intentions, even if his methods were flawed. They present him as a man who wanted nothing more than to protect his family, but the prosecution fires back with hard facts. Criminal acts are still criminal, regardless of intent. Willow is torn in court, because while she wants the best for her children, she cannot deny that Michael's actions put their safety and stability at risk. Her testimony, though reluctant, ultimately strengthens her case as the parent best suited to provide a secure home for Wiley and Amelia. Wiley, now old enough to sense the turmoil, begins asking difficult questions. He wants to know why his father is gone, why everyone is whispering around him, and why his life feels different from the kids at school. Willow, trying to protect his innocence, explains gently that his father made mistakes but still loves him very much. These conversations weigh heavily on Willow's heart. She remembers her own childhood and how it was marked by instability, and she swears she will not let her son carry the same burdens. She turns to Michael's parents for support, especially Carly, who promises to be a steady presence in her grandchildren's lives despite her devastation over Michael's situation. Carly herself is caught in a storm of conflicting emotions. On one hand, she wants to fight tooth and nail to prove her son's innocence, to find a way to reduce his charges or even have him exonerated. On the other hand, she knows deep down that Michael is guilty of what he's accused of. She has seen the evidence and cannot pretend it doesn't exist. Her maternal instinct pushes her to protect him, but the practical side of her understands that Willow and the children must come first. Carly and Willow, often on opposite sides in the past, begin to bond through their shared desire to shield Wiley and Amelia from the chaos. Carly supports Willow's decisions in court even when it means admitting Michael may not be the parent his children need right now. Sonny, meanwhile, finds himself in an impossible position. His history of criminal activity is no secret, and he knows better than most what it feels like to be judged for choices made in the shadows. He empathizes with Michael's intentions but cannot condone the reckless actions that led to this downfall. Sonny spends sleepless nights questioning whether his own influence pushed Michael down this path. Did his son inherit a belief that the ends justify the means? Did growing up in the shadow of a mob boss make Michael think he could play by a different set of rules? Sonny's guilt is palpable, and though he wants to help Michael, he knows the courts won't care about family loyalty. His son must face the consequences, just as he has faced them many times before. The rivalry with Nina escalates in the midst of the turmoil. With Michael out of the picture, Nina sees an opening to assert herself in Wiley's life. She files motions to gain more visitation rights, claiming that Wiley deserves the love of all his grandparents, not just the ones Willow approves of. Nina plays the victim in court, insisting that she has been unfairly excluded from her grandson's life for years and that now, with Michael in jail, she should finally have her chance to be present. Willow, however, remains firm in her opposition. She argues that introducing Nina into Wiley's life during such a tumultuous period would only add more instability. The two women clash bitterly, their courtroom showdowns echoing the emotional battles they have fought for years. Behind bars, Michael struggles to keep himself together. The harsh reality of jail life wears him down, but what hurts more than the confinement is the knowledge that Willow and the children are moving forward without him. He fears that by the time he regains his freedom, he will be nothing more than a distant figure in their lives. Letters from Wiley bring both comfort and pain. They are filled with love but also reminders of the moments he is missing. Michael vows to fight for his family, but he knows the first step is accepting responsibility for his actions. His legal team advises him to consider a plea deal, something that could reduce his sentence but would also mean officially admitting guilt. Michael wrestles with this choice, torn between his pride and his desire to see his children grow up. As the case drags on, public perception shifts. Some begin to see Michael as a tragic figure, a man who wanted to protect his family but fell victim to the same ruthless instincts that have plagued the Corinthos legacy for generations. Others dismiss him as just another entitled Corinthos who thought he was above the law. The debates ripple through Port Charles, dividing even close friends. At General Hospital, conversations among staff reflect the turmoil of the community. People whisper about whether Willow should move on without Michael, whether she deserves a fresh start with someone who can give her a life free of crime and scandal. Willow, though outwardly strong, struggles privately with these thoughts. She loves Michael deeply, but she cannot deny that their marriage has been tested beyond recognition. Nights are long and lonely, filled with doubts about whether she can continue to tie her future to a man who may spend years behind bars. At the same time, she cannot bring herself to let go completely. She thinks of the promises they made, the family they built, and the bond they share. Her heart remains divided, caught between loyalty and self-preservation. What she does know for certain is that Wiley and Amelia come first, and she will never let them suffer for the choices their father made. In quieter moments, Willow reflects on how far she has come. Once a vulnerable young woman manipulated by controlling figures, she has now transformed into a strong, independent mother capable of standing up to anyone, whether it's Michael's enemies, the legal system, or even Nina. Her journey from fragility to resilience becomes clear to everyone around her. Friends admire her strength, and even those who once doubted her now see her as a woman who can weather any storm. This transformation is perhaps the only silver lining in Michael's downfall. It forces Willow to step into her own power, not as a wife defined by her husband's choices, but as a mother and woman in her own right. The day of Michael's trial arrives with a tension that feels almost unbearable in Port Charles. Everyone knows this case isn't just about a man accused of crimes, it's about the Corinthos name, the ripple effect it has on the community, and the way choices echo through families for generations. Reporters pack the courthouse, eager to capture every word, every glance, and every revelation. Willow, sitting solemnly in the gallery, holds her breath as Michael enters the courtroom in a suit that cannot hide the weariness etched into his face. Though his posture is strong, his eyes betray the fear and regret that consume him. For the first time, he appears not as the confident heir of a powerful family, but as a man stripped bare, facing the consequences of actions he can no longer excuse. The prosecution lays out its case with brutal clarity. They detail the crimes Michael committed, painting him as someone who believed he could act above the law simply because of his family's influence. Each piece of evidence hits like a hammer blow, and even those sympathetic to Michael cannot ignore the mounting proof of his guilt. the defense fights back, emphasizing his motives, his desire to protect his loved ones, his history of being a devoted father, and the fact that his crimes, though serious, were not motivated by greed or malice but by fear and desperation. The jury watches intently, their expressions unreadable, as the two sides clash. Willow listens to every word, her heart breaking with each damning statement. She wants desperately to believe in Michael, to hold on to the man she fell in love with, but the evidence forces her to confront the truth. She sees the flaws in his character, the shadows he tried to hide, and the way his decisions have endangered everything they built together. Still, she cannot ignore the love she feels for him, and as she watches him from across the courtroom, she silently prays for mercy, not for herself, but for Wiley and Amelia, who deserve a father in their lives. The trial drags on for days, each one heavier than the last. Friends and family testify, their words both helping and hurting Michael's case. Carly speaks passionately about her son's character, insisting that his heart has always been in the right place, even when his actions were misguided. Sonny's testimony is more complex. He admits that Michael made mistakes but argues that his son does not deserve to be defined solely by them. His words carry weight, but they also remind the jury of the family's long history with crime, a detail the prosecution uses to their advantage. Nina, never missing an opportunity, takes the stand to discuss how Michael once tried to keep her away from Wiley. She presents herself as a loving grandmother unfairly excluded by a man who now stands accused of serious offenses. Her words sting Willow, who knows Nina is twisting the truth for her own gain. When the jury finally returns with a verdict, the air in the courtroom is so thick with anticipation that even breathing feels difficult. Michael stands, his hands trembling slightly, as the foreperson announces the decision, guilty. Gasps ripple through the room, though many expected this outcome. Willow closes her eyes, tears streaming down her face, as the reality sinks in. Michael is led away in handcuffs, his eyes locking with hers in one last desperate plea for forgiveness. She wants to run to him, to hold him, but the barriers of law and justice keep them apart. The sentencing hearing that follows is equally devastating. The judge acknowledges Michael's history of good deeds and his role as a father, but the crimes he committed cannot be overlooked. A prison sentence is handed down, long enough to ensure that Michael will miss crucial years of his children's lives. The gavel falls, and with it, the life Michael once knew crumbles completely. Willow clutches Wiley and Amelia tightly in the days that follow, trying to reassure them that everything will be okay even as her own world feels like it's collapsing. Life after the trial is an adjustment that tests Willow's strength in ways she never imagined. She becomes both mother and father to Wiley and Amelia, balancing her job, her grief, and the never-ending demands of parenting. Nights are the hardest, when the silence of the house reminds her of Michael's absence. Still, she pushes forward, determined to create a life for her children that is safe and filled with love. Her resilience inspires those around her, and slowly, she begins to rebuild. Carly remains by her side, offering help with the children and becoming a steady grandmotherly presence. Sonny, though quieter, shows his support in subtle ways, sending gifts for the kids and visiting when he can. The battle with Nina continues, however. Emboldened by Michael's imprisonment, Nina intensifies her campaign for access to Wiley. She argues that Willow cannot raise the children alone, that they need all the love they can get, including hers. Court hearings on visitation rights become almost as exhausting as Michael's trial had been. Willow refuses to yield, standing firm that Nina's presence would only disrupt her children's fragile stability. The two women engage in a war of wills, each believing they are fighting for Wiley's best interests. Their conflict becomes one of the most contentious dramas in Port Charles, dividing friends and family alike. Michael, meanwhile, struggles in prison. Letters from Willow are sparse, filled more with updates about the children than expressions of love. He knows she is drifting further away, but he cannot blame her. His focus shifts to becoming a better man behind bars, working on himself in the hope that one day he can prove he is worthy of being part of his children's lives again. He attends counseling, participates in rehabilitation programs, and spends hours writing letters to Wiley and Amelia, even if they are too young to understand most of what he writes. These small acts give him purpose, even in the darkest of days. For Wiley, the absence of his father is confusing and painful. He asks questions that Willow struggles to answer, wanting to know when Daddy will come home and why he had to leave in the first place. Willow answers gently, reminding him that his father loves him deeply, even if he cannot be there right now. Amelia, too young to understand, grows up with only faint memories of Michael. Willow does her best to keep his presence alive through stories, photos, and letters, but she knows it is not the same as having him physically there. The weight of single motherhood is crushing at times, but Willow refuses to give in. The larger Corinthos family continues to grapple with the fallout. Carly channels her energy into supporting Willow and the children, determined to protect her grandchildren from the ugliness of Michael's situation. Sonny wrestles with his guilt, sometimes visiting Michael in prison to remind him that family bonds remain unbroken even when tested by law and circumstance. Other family members drift in and out, offering support where they can, but the fracture caused by Michael's crimes lingers, leaving scars that may never fully heal. In the broader tapestry of Port Charles, Michael's downfall becomes a cautionary tale. His story is whispered about in hushed tones at the Metro Court, dissected endlessly in gossip circles, and debated at General Hospital among staff who have seen more than their fair share of scandal. Some sympathize with him, believing his love for his family drove him to cross lines others might never dare to cross. Others condemn him outright, insisting that no amount of good intentions can excuse the harm he caused. Regardless of opinion, everyone agrees on one thing: the Corinthos family will never be the same again. Through it all, Willow's transformation continues to shine. She becomes a symbol of resilience, admired for her ability to stand strong in the face of adversity. Though her heart remains heavy with loss, she refuses to let grief define her. She builds a stable home for Wiley and Amelia, surrounds them with love, and teaches them the value of strength, honesty, and forgiveness. Even as she navigates ongoing battles with Nina and the pain of Michael's absence, Willow proves herself to be a woman capable of handling anything life throws at her. Months pass, and life in Port Charles slowly begins to adjust to Michael's absence. The scandal no longer dominates headlines the way it once did, but for those closest to him, the wounds remain fresh. Willow becomes accustomed to her new normal, a daily routine that balances motherhood, work, and the emotional labor of raising children without their father. She has moments of quiet strength, like when she helps Wiley with his school projects or rocks Amelia to sleep, but there are also moments of private grief, when she allows herself to cry alone after the children are in bed. These hidden tears are not just for Michael, but for the life she thought they were building together, a life that now feels irretrievably broken. Despite everything, Willow refuses to let bitterness consume her. She clings to the belief that healing is possible, even if it comes slowly. She speaks to Wiley about forgiveness, teaching him that mistakes do not erase love. Though she does not sugarcoat the truth, she reminds him constantly that his father's love is real and enduring. These lessons, though painful for her to teach, are part of her commitment to ensuring her children grow up with compassion rather than resentment. Her quiet wisdom becomes a beacon not only for her family but also for friends who admire the way she carries herself under such crushing weight. Michael's journey behind bars is no less transformative. Stripped of power, influence, and the comforts of privilege, he is forced to confront the raw truth of who he is and the choices that brought him here. At first, he resents the world for turning against him, but over time, his perspective shifts. He begins to see that accountability is not punishment, it is the path to growth. He attends therapy sessions, journals daily, and pours his energy into becoming the man he wishes he had been before his arrest. Fellow inmates begin to respect him for his humility, and he forms unlikely friendships that challenge his worldview. Slowly, Michael starts to rebuild himself from the inside out. Letters from Willow remain a lifeline. Though they are not filled with declarations of love, they offer updates about the children that keep Michael grounded. He treasures every word, imagining Wiley's laugh or Amelia's first steps, even if he cannot witness them. He writes back, filling pages with stories, advice, and expressions of love, knowing that one day his children will read them and understand that their father never stopped caring. These letters become a bridge between his present and the future he hopes to reclaim. Meanwhile, the battle with Nina simmers on. Despite numerous court appearances, Willow continues to hold the upper hand, proving time and again that she is the most stable and consistent guardian for Wiley and Amelia. Nina's frustration grows, her bitterness spilling into her personal life. Though she still longs for a closer bond with her grandson, her combative tactics often alienate those around her. Even Sonny, who once defended her, begins to tire of her relentless pursuit. Over time, Nina realizes that the harder she pushes, the further she distances herself from Wiley. This recognition forces her into a painful reckoning of her own, one that may eventually soften her approach, though whether she will ever earn Willow's forgiveness remains uncertain. The Corinthos family, though fractured, slowly finds ways to heal. Carly, steadfast as always, continues to support Willow and the children, creating a home environment filled with love and reassurance. Sonny, though consumed by guilt, uses his influence carefully, ensuring that Willow has the resources she needs to raise her family without feeling overwhelmed. Other family members step in as well, offering help, companionship, and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the Corinthos clan stands together. Their unity does not erase the pain of Michael's imprisonment, but it creates a foundation of strength that allows them all to move forward. For Wiley, the years ahead are shaped by resilience. Though he misses his father deeply, he finds comfort in the stability Willow provides. He grows into a thoughtful, empathetic child, shaped by the lessons of love and forgiveness his mother instills in him. Amelia, too, thrives under Willow's care, her innocence shielded from the harsh realities that once threatened to define her early life. Together, the siblings form a bond that becomes a source of joy and hope for Willow, a daily reminder that even amid loss, love endures. As for Michael, the possibility of redemption lingers in the distance. Time behind bars reshapes him, stripping away the arrogance and self-righteousness that once clouded his judgment. He dreams of the day he can walk free, not to reclaim his old life, but to begin anew. He knows that earning back Willow's trust will be the greatest challenge of his life, and he does not expect forgiveness to come easily, or at all. Still, he holds on to the hope that one day he will be able to stand beside his children as a better man, a man who has faced his demons and emerged stronger. In the end, Michael's arrest becomes more than a scandal, it becomes a story of transformation for everyone involved. Willow discovers the depth of her own strength, stepping into a role that defines her as both protector and guide for her children. The Corinthos family confronts their legacy of crime and its impact on the next generation. Nina faces the consequences of her choices, realizing that love cannot be forced through manipulation. And Michael himself embarks on a journey of redemption that may one day allow him to rebuild the life he shattered. Though the road ahead remains uncertain, one truth becomes clear: love and resilience are stronger than scandal and shame. Wiley and Amelia, the heart of this story, grow up surrounded by a mother's unwavering devotion, a family's cautious support, and the knowledge that even when life falls apart, hope can be rebuilt piece by piece. Michael's absence leaves scars, but his desire to change leaves open the possibility of healing. In Port Charles, where drama never ends and secrets are always exposed, this chapter serves as a reminder that redemption is possible, but only for those willing to face the consequences and fight for a better future.